This is a tutorial and training session for functional range conditioning, PAILs and rails of the ankle joint inversion. PAILs and rails stands for progressive and regressive angular isometric loading. In the functional range system, we use PAILs and rails to achieve three objectives. The first is to increase range of motion or space within a joint. The second objective is to gain access and control of our end ranges of motion. The third objective is to improve the health and quality of the connective tissue involved in that joint, ligament, tendon, or muscle. So what is ankle inversion? Well, simply put, if you've ever rolled your ankle, you've probably had an inversion ankle sprain. Inversion is a tilting of the ankle this way. So when you roll the ankle, it usually goes over on itself this direction. Eversion is the opposite. It is a rolling of the ankle inward. So inversion, outward rolling, eversion, inward rolling. So we're looking at it through the lens of these tilting and rolling mechanisms of the ankle joint. I will show you three different setups that you can use for your ankle inversion PAILs and rails. So let's get into those. The first setup I'll show you to get into an ankle inversion stretch involves using manual blocking, meaning our hands. So to do that, the first thing I'm going to do is bring my foot up away from the ground and go into active inversion, contracting these midline shin and calf muscles here. I'm going to take both of my hands and wrap them across the top of my foot, grasping the outer edge of my foot with my fingertips so that I can stretch further into inversion this way. So I've got this rolling of my hands outward away from the midline of the body to get into a stretch of these outer ligaments and tendons of the ankle, furthering that inversion. The next setup we can use involves elevated surfaces. So for that, I've got these stackable mobility blocks, and I have some hardcover books that I can stack at varying heights depending on how many books I have. And I've got a kettlebell like this one. So the first one I'll show you is the kettlebell. We're going to bring the kettlebell down to the ground, and you can see that the bell is higher than the handle. So we've got this angled position like this. I'll bring the midline of my foot up onto the handle of the bell like this, such that now I have my ankle in inversion. I can search around for more stretching by bringing my leg this direction to try to load more into that lateral or outside of the ankle joint there. So this is another setup. Using the stackable books is going to be much the same, where I've got the books lined up like this. I'm going to take the midline of my foot and line it up with the top of the cover there. And now I've got my foot and ankle in inversion. You have to play with this a little bit to try to find the correct height of the book there. So that's another option. And the last would be to use the stackable mobility pads. These ones are a little squishy, but they work for this as well. So I've got the midline of my foot lined up onto the pads there, such that I can get my ankle into inversion. Again, I can stretch that further by bringing my shin out this way and kind of driving the leg down in that direction to get more of that stretch of inversion. Last setup I'll show you involves using a slant board. So let's get that out here. What's nice about the slant board is that it has varying heights that we can go from all the way up here to all the way down there. So I'm going to put it right about in the middle there. Now for this one, ideally you've got a wall to stand against on this side so that as you lean, you can press your hand out against the wall. I'm going to use a simple pole like this, and I'll come up into ankle inversion like this. I'm going to start to lean my body weight out towards this leg to try to drive that foot and ankle more into inversion like that. So that's another option. You can even have a yoga block to step on with this foot. But if I have a wall on this side, I can just put my hand against the wall, drive the leg over this way to get further into inversion. So those are the three options you can use for your ankle PAILs and rails for inversion. And now let's get into the training session. So let's get into the training session for PAILs and rails of ankle inversion. When you do your PAILs contraction, your progressive angular isometric, you're going to be taking the foot and ankle from inversion and trying to pull it out of that position into eversion, which is going to be contracting the muscles on the side of the shin and foot here. So again, PAILs is going from inversion, trying to pull into eversion. Our rails contraction will be taking it from inversion and trying to further invert actively. So contracting all of the muscles on the midline of the shin, calf, and ankle here. So PAILs, rolling it back out, rails, rolling it further down and in. So if you are using your hands for this, which is the method that I like best, you're going to be holding really firm. If you're on one of those elevated surfaces, you're going to be using either the top of that surface to drive into your PAILs or trying to pull your foot up away from that surface to go into your rails. So let's go ahead and get into this 60-second stretch. I'm going to bring my hands to the top of my foot and pull it into inversion, again, rolling that ankle out this way. Again, same direction that most people sprain their ankles when they injure them. If I want to get more stretch, I can drive this heel bone kind of into the ground this way, taking my shin and kind of pulling the line of the shin across the middle, but in this case, I'm driving the heel bone. So if you are on the standing setups, again, you can imagine that that midline of the shin is across the middle this way, a little bit kind of driving that force into the outer ankle that way. So I've got my eye on the clock. Let's start taking some deep breaths in and out, stretching deeper. This might be an uncomfortable stretch for many of you as you get this tissue toward your end range. So we start with a minimum 60-second stretch, but if you have more time, go to 90 seconds to 2 minutes, 2 minutes being the maximum time you would need to stretch it. So again, when we apply our PAILs, we're going to be trying to roll this foot and ankle back out of there, going the opposite direction of the stretch. So about another 10 seconds. Now, when you apply your PAILs contraction and rails contractions, you can use anywhere from 20 to 80% effort or intensity of contraction. Meaning, if you're new at doing this, start at a low level, 20%. As you go through your reps, you can start to ramp that up into higher levels of contraction. If you've already done this for a while, start at 50%, work your way all the way up to 80. So let's do a PAILs contraction. We're going to take a deep breath in. We're going to trap some air in the abdomen and core and start to roll that ankle out of that position into your PAILs. Again, I'm trying to roll the midline of my foot down this way, bringing the outer edge of my foot up. Press and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rails, try to further invert the ankle. So I could produce resistance by then trying to roll my hands back this way, pushing the ankle back, down for 3, 2, 1. Get back into your stretch, block that position, and apply your PAILs. Roll the foot out of that position, contract the muscles on the outside of the shin and calf and ankle. Hold 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rails, roll it further into inversion. Again, in this case, I'm using my thumbs to kind of drive down this way to create more resistance there. Holding 3, 2, 1. Back into the stretch. If you can stretch deeper, go for it. If not, stay at your end range. Take a deep breath in, trap some air in your abdomen and core. Start to apply your PAILs. Roll from inversion out into eversion. Hold firm with the hands for 3, 2, 1. Go further into inversion for your rails. Hold 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Back into our PAILs. Deep breath in. Roll the foot out of there. Hold. Keep pushing. Firm, firm, firm. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Back into your stretch. Rails. Pull the foot inward further. Invert the ankle actively. Hold 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Back into your PAILs. Roll the foot out. So if you're on the slant board, you're trying to roll that midline of the foot down into the board or the elevated surface of the kettlebell or books or pads. Hold 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go into your rails. If you're on the slant board, you're trying to peel that midline of the foot up away from the board, actively inverting. You're trying to pull the midline of your foot up off the books or kettlebell handle. Hold 3, 2, 1. Back into your PAILs, your progressive isometric. Roll from inversion into eversion. Roll the ankle out to the side. Drive the midline of the foot down this way. 3, 2, 1. Rails, actively roll into inversion there. Squeezing. Good. Hold firm for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stretch further. Let's do our last PAILs contraction. Keep the core really snug and tight. Actively roll from inversion out from there. Block that position nice and firm. Keep pushing. Push hard. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Last rails. Roll deeper into inversion. Squeeze hard for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. When you come out of that position, take your foot through some gentle flexion and extension, a little bit of inversion and eversion. So if this is your first time training PAILs and rails for ankle inversion, expect it to feel a little sore in that outer ankle tissue. That's not unusual because you're using new end ranges of motion, accessing lines and stretches into tissues that have maybe never been there in a stretch or maybe never even been trained there. So PAILs and rails can create some soreness, which is okay. We're doing training of that tissue at end range. Don't let that don't let that put you off from doing this type of training. So that is your tutorial and training session for functional range conditioning, PAILs and rails of ankle inversion. Hope you enjoyed it.